maybe Kelley's subdued because a little something happened on the show yesterday that we should probably bring up first. And that is when I just sort of ruminated out loud about, the MVP market in the NBA and the fact that yesterday was supposed to be the night where the Nuggets playing the Sixers, it could be Nikola Jokic versus Joel Embiid. And, I pointed out the possibility of this not happening. Well, here's the video. Here's how it went. Tonight is the battle for the MVP, if, of course, Embiid plays. The battle for the MVP between Jokic and Embiid, and we wonder how many of these voters, they'll never admit it, but what percentage of these voters are going to base their MVP vote on whatever happens tonight in this game if the two shall meet?
If Embiid doesn't play tonight, I'll drink whatever eggnog anybody brings me from whatever month of whatever year ever. Sweet. This guy is a lock to play tonight. Are you kidding me?
Vintage eggnog from the year 2014. Coming on for Kelley Bydlon. This guy's a lock to play tonight, you said. And, of course, I don't know why you just overrode the cautionary notes that of course, about an hour and a half after we got out of here, they're like, yeah. Embiid's not playing. It was like an hour and a half. It wasn't even that long after the show. That didn't age well.
The only thing I'm really disappointed in is that I used the L word. You know what I mean? You never use the L word.
Yeah.
Come on. So, yeah, I'm an idiot.
Can you acquire eggnog? Or is it just impossible?
As I texted you yesterday, I was running errands. I was in Smith's. I was like, let me check if they got eggnog. I'll do this. But they didn't have any eggnog.
They didn't have any eggnog.
Sorry.
So we got to find some.
Got a lot of tweets, that's for sure. Got a lot of tweets about it, that's for sure.
So the other part in that, besides Kelley just brashly saying this is a lock to happen, which of course is the headline from that, and that he's got to ingest eggnog at a rapid pace at some point on this show. He can't get out of it.
We did. Buddhist man did have some good suggestions that it would be the halftime show of me chugging eggnog in between Matt's kicks.
Oh, great!
When he goes from right leg to left leg.
So in other words, this is never going to happen. This is a mythical event. It will never happen. We'll find Bigfoot quicker. So the other thing in that little video from yesterday that got lost in your guarantees was that I sort of said, like, again, how many of these voters will never know, but how many we're basically waiting for that showdown, if you will, to determine their entire year's NBA MVP vote. And if you think that was an outlandish sort of aside, Kelley, didn't you hear from people? Sort of Kendrick Perkins said it mattered to him yesterday, but weren't there multiple people who said? There's NBA Central. Kendrick Perkins calling out Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is ducking that smoke. You cannot sit out this game. When it comes down to these matchups, I have a vote for MVP. I'm going to remember this moment. But there were a few others who said, yeah.
Yeah, it was on NBA Live yesterday, and it was almost, I don't want to say a consensus, but there was multiple people talking about how this, him not playing in that game was, I don't want to say would affect their vote, but it was impactful on the vote. There were a couple guys saying, hey, we were looking forward to seeing this game to see, how these two top-end MVP candidates would square off.
Okay.
That was probably the better way to say it.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to put words in their mouths, but that was kind of it. And I'm kind of like, well, so you're really let one game?
Yes.
Decide this much?
That's the only question that needs to be asked. How big of a joke is that? Right? Either way. Whatever your side is in this MVP battle here, or whatever bets you have, that would have such an effect on people.
Yeah.
Now Nikola Jokic has played 6 more games than Joel Embiid has. That's starting to bubble up as, sort of a broader point of all this. But I will tell you this. I have said on this show, and I hadn't bet it yet until yesterday, but I had said on this show many times, I go, this is sort of, on this, whether we think we're going to or not, we often influence betting markets here, whether it's a tennis play in a given day, whether it's futures markets, whether it's a guest coming on and having a pick. We do have an influence at times on markets. Side sports more than the major sports, of course. This was the mainstream media's moment where it felt like they were all banding together to create seat change in the NBA MVP market. Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons, and even Tim Legler. And I mentioned this last week. I was like, I went and listened to that Zach Lowe podcast about why he thought all of a sudden, a guy who had voted for Nikola Jokic for 2 years, how he all of a sudden was like, I'm not voting for Jokic this year. I'm starting to lean towards Embiid. He didn't go all out and say he was going to do the vote. But his reasoning was he didn't think Jokic's defense was as up to snuff as it had been in the last couple of years. In other words, his broader statement was his offense is unassailable, but in the last couple of years, his defense was good enough. Not this year. His defense isn't quite good enough. And the stat that I will never forget that he brought up is he was really bothered by the fact that Nikola Jokic had, you ready for this? 47 kicked balls. I'm not even making this up. Kicked basketballs, let's be clear. So in other words, the year before, Vucevic had the most in the whole NBA, 14 of them. And so the fact that Jokic had 47 of these to date in the NBA was really bothering Zach Lowe because for him, it was a representation of lazy defense. And I'm like, I think that's a good defensive play, quite frankly.
Yeah, there is. There's been a lot of interesting stuff with some of the NBA media guys because JVT and I've been tracking some of this stuff, and he texted me one yesterday where Tim Bontemps keeps really leaning into this. He said this multiple times where the Vegas odds have these wrong, and he said this about Defensive Player of the Year, and he said it about MVP, and I don't know. He says it in this angry tone of, I don't know if he just doesn't like that they're hanging odds on awards, or is he implying that the people he talks to, because he's one of the guys that helps shape these markets every year with his straw polls, people he talks to, is he saying that the favorites shouldn't be favored? And that's where
that's what it sounds like more than anything.
That's what I think it sounds like.
He might have anger behind it, but we don't know that. But that's what it sounds like at a base minimum, right?
When you hear it flat, that's what it sounds like. And so I don't know. I think he doesn't think Embiid should be the favorite like he has been over the past.
Well, so this was my point because then and Legler, by the way, after hearing Lowe and Simmons and others, and I could only think it was precipitated by that, where Tim Legler then comes on the air and he isolates one defensive play that Joel Embiid made against the Cleveland Cavaliers where he, I can't remember who it was that drove through him, and then Embiid on a dime jumped and then reversed and made a block. And he gushed about it, just with this gravitas, like, oh, no other player in the league could have made this play. And it was just, they were just piling on this thing. And I'm like, has Nikola Jokic... have we just lost our minds that this guy, the stats that you give, Kelley, are always the best? The difference between him being on the court and him being off versus Embiid being on the court and Embiid being off, it's unassailable that he is, by definition, the MVP. And yesterday, I finally went ahead and just put my money where my mouth is, and I bet Jokic at plus 130. I bet him at plus 130, and now as we're looking at the current odds at DraftKings, it's basically a coin flip. Embiid is plus 105. Jokic is plus 110. Giannis is 5-1. And let's just say that March 22nd, which is last Wednesday, if I have that correct.
Yeah.
So 6 days ago, Jokic was plus 250. So again, this is one of these things where, yes, should I have bet it then? I actually said out loud I should bet it then. Shouldn't we be betting Nikola Jokic? I didn't get around to it, but I'm happy to take the plus 130. I'm happy to take anything that's plus money or coin flip or better, quite frankly, on this. What's the stat, Kelley, if you might?
Yeah, right now, updated on-off splits for Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Joel Embiid on the court, plus 11.9. Nikola Jokic, plus 28.
On and off the court.
Yep.
I mean, what are we talking about here?
They are over 20 points better on offense, 100 points per 100 possessions when Nikola Jokic is on the court.
Or, by the way, it should be pointed out, is Giannis the one we're all sleeping on? With the Bontemps
He's the best player in the world.
Yeah, maybe we are. But Embiid over Jokic just because three guys got together and were like this cabal of, oh, no, this is why. No. I don't buy any of it. I don't buy it.
But no, I mean, it was somewhat sincere because the end of the season matters so much for all of these awards. And, I think, if you want to talk a little bit about the MVP race, which is maybe the most interesting thing going.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, because that's how we started the show.
Far from decided.
Well, so that was the thing. So yesterday, by the way, again, in case you missed it, Joel Embiid, about an hour and a half after we were off the air, after Kelley boldly proclaimed that there was no chance Embiid would not play, it was announced that Embiid would not play. And then, so he's got to drink a bunch of eggnog. But then, Nikola Jokic goes out and drops another triple-double, 25, 17, and 12 in the Nuggets' 116-111 win over the Sixers. So it looks like the Sixers are not going to win the Atlantic Division. There was a moment where you thought they might. Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets are going to be the number one seed. They never really flirted with not being the number one seed. And Nikola Jokic, in the process, just messes around and throws up his 29th triple-double. Or as the kids call them, Kelley, trip-dubs. 29 of them.
By the way, this graphic has moved 5 more cents. This is now Nikola Jokic, the favorite, plus 105, Joel Embiid, plus 110.
And so, Drew, I bet Jokic yesterday at plus 130. I finally just put my money where my mouth is. I'm betting him, because I didn't buy into the Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons, Tim Legler, of assault on Nikola Jokic. Where do you stand on it?
So the assault on Nikola Jokic goes well past that list.
Yes.
And it's for a really stupid reason.
I agree.
I agree. There's so many angles to attack this. But before going anywhere, we got to give Kelley a little bit more shade here.
Yes, we do.
Kelley, were you aware that Joel Embiid has dodged Jokic in Denver every regular season going back to 2019?
Yes,
this is not a new
Drew.
thing. This is not new. And you still were very confident he was going to play. Okay, that's tremendous.
You should just have made it more direct, Drew. You should have just said, "Were you aware that Gill in the sentence before he's brought it up said he might not play twice?"
Yeah. It was everything about what the Sixers did in the last 72 hours has been very weird. I don't know why they played Embiid in Phoenix. That was a terrible decision. He ran him into the ground in that game. He was absolutely, struggling up and down the court in the fourth quarter. If you watch that. Making him play the back-to-back Warriors, Phoenix, 2 deserved losses, and then right into, a matchup with Denver where they pull all of the rug out from under the team on the eve of on the eve of tip, but whatever. I think Embiid's case is in the most trouble here out of these 3 players that are realistically being considered. And it's not just because of not playing against Jokic. It's because the Sixers are realistically in the fight for the 3 seed right now. Like they could very easily get flipped by the Cavs for the 3-4. And honestly, Embiid, he deployed so much energy after Harden got hurt a week and change ago in that little stretch there. They've come down the home stretch here with one of the more difficult schedules. Their easiest game remaining is at the Hawks. Otherwise, they get Bucks, Celtics, Nets, Heat, Mavericks, Raptors, and these last 7 games. Like they are going to finish with a whimper. The MVP voters are going to hold that against him. And the case against him, the case against Jokic is, I think, a little bit of a problem for anyone holding a Jokic ticket, because there are people who literally are not going to put him at the top of their ballot because they don't want to see him get 3 straight MVPs, considering how little he's accomplished in the postseason. And that's a terrible reason not to vote for a guy who has been, in my opinion, the most important player in the regular season this year. But what that does is that opens up the door for Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo to come and steal this MVP. He is the best player on the best team. You said that the Denver Nuggets have the 1 seed locked up, Gill. That's a mistake. They are the 2 overall to the Milwaukee Bucks, who can absolutely put some space on the rest of the East this week. Giannis gets a head-to-head win against the Celtics this week on national TV, and then the Sixers on Sunday. I think he is very live for this award.
Yes. Conference versus league, of course, but I think you're right.
Sure.
I think that might. I believe it was LL Cool J, Kelley, who once said the sneaky freaky brother sneaking in from the rear, and I think it might be Giannis.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.